to Blitz and Banter. I'm your host, Kennedy Smith, along with Paul Gallant. Welcome back. Happy New Year. How did you spend your New Year?
I was in Mexico, but you probably can't tell because, as you can see, I'm very white and still not tan at all.
I was going to say, you're shining brightly today.
Sure, that's one way to put it.
I stayed here in cold Texas, but I put on self-tanner, so I am tan. Thank you.
Good job.
Well, it is week 18 here in the NFL football season. A lot is going on. We've got so many things to hit today, so we're going to dive right in with big headline of today. Aaron Rodgers, what is his fate? Is he going to retire? Will we see him again next season? Are the Jets going to give him the boot? Big question.
I think the Jets are definitely going to give him the boot. I think the real question is, if you're Aaron Rodgers, would you want to keep playing? Because ironically, he's kind of reenacting the end of Brett Favre's career. I don't think he's the same player anymore. I think the injuries have finally caught up with him. He's won 4 MVPs, second most all time. He is playing for a team right now that's not very good. Is he going to play for a contender next year? I wonder what would be left to play for other than more money.
Well, on Wednesday, he spoke with the media after practice, and he said that it is up in the air. There's a possibility that this may be his last game of his career. Now, he also did say that he will not be going any wellness retreats this offseason to think about it, but he does want to give himself some time in this offseason to really reflect and see if it's the right move for him. So it does beg the question, does he stay with the Jets or go elsewhere? Personally, I feel like the Jets are out of the question. They tried this little experiment for the last 2 years. Has not gone well, so something needs to change. But as we know, there are a lot of teams that are on the search for the right quarterback. Do we think Aaron is right for any team at this point, or should he hang him up?
I think there's certainly a chance that one team's going to look at him and look at the draft class for this year when it comes to quarterbacks, where there's really only 2 guys who step out. It's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders. It's not like this year's past draft class where we're talking about 5, 6 guys who were taken so early. So maybe there's one team that thinks to themselves, we can get the most out of Aaron Rodgers. But I again want to say, he has not looked like the Aaron Rodgers of old. When you suffer an Achilles injury and you're in your 40s, it's really tough to be the same guy. I'm not quite there yet, but as someone who just came back from a party in Mexico, like, I'm sore, I'm tired. Aaron Rodgers,
and you're much younger.
I'm much younger. I mean, yes, much younger.
Okay, not that much.
But I feel like for him, what is the incentive to play?
Exactly.
Can you win another Super Bowl? Probably not. Can you win another MVP? Probably not.
Well, does it matter that we're probably going to be seeing a new general manager and head coach in this Jets program?
I mean, the big problem for the Jets is it's the owner. Woody Johnson is the owner of the Jets, and it seems like these two had a big falling out. I think Woody Johnson thought that he was going to be tapped as ambassador to the United Kingdom again, which he was, and he hasn't been. That probably would have been best for the Jets because, hey, they can get a new head coach, they can get a new general manager, they can get a new quarterback. As long as that guy is running the show, they are going to be the same laughingstock of the NFL that they've been for years.
You know what's something that we never really touched on as a society is back when Robert Kennedy said that he was going to have Aaron Rodgers as his vice president.
I forgot about that.
I saw that when I think I was in spring training last year, and I saw it on my phone and was utterly shocked, and I don't think anyone ever talked about that.
Well, I beg to disagree on that one because I feel like we talked so much about the possibility of Aaron Rodgers being Jets quarterback or vice president candidate along with RFK. The fact that that was even a storyline at all is truly crazy. I mean, maybe that's what Aaron Rodgers does next. Maybe he becomes RFK's assistant in the cabinet. We'll see.
Do you think he knows enough about the health and wellness of America to do that job?
He knows a lot about ayahuasca. That's all I know.
All right, well, the Jets with Aaron Rodgers are finishing probably one of the worst seasons they've seen in a while. They're 4-12. They're probably going to want a fresh start with a quarterback, but shockingly enough, Aaron Rodgers did say, and I quote, "This has been the best 2 years of my life." He said it's a perspective adjustment that has happened during the rehab process last year, and it's just exciting to be falling back in love with the game. What are you falling in love with right now, Aaron?
That sounds like the ayahuasca talking. Look, they've been terrible these last 2 seasons, and okay, he gets hurt 4 plays into his first season with the Jets, but this guy voluntarily left one of the most consistent organizations in the NFL over the past 3 decades, the Green Bay Packers, to go to the biggest joke in the league. How could we have enjoyed this time unless he's just been having a lot of fun kicking back with his friend Pat McAfee on ESPN?
Well, very much true. And he might just be enjoying it so much because he's not focusing on football.
It does not seem to be. He likes to yap and talk a little trash.
Which you brought up Pat McAfee brings the question, if he does retire, what is next for him? Do you think that doing all of these hits and interviews on Pat's show is kind of leading up to maybe a potential career in broadcasting?
I think honestly he'd be pretty good at it, and maybe he decides to be the Joe Rogan of sports or something like that, bringing people in for long interviews. Maybe they do a little, druggy wuggies along the way.
Druggy wuggies?
We'll see what happens.
Guys, that is how we know that Paul does not do druggy wuggies, because that's what he just called them.
Yes, exactly what she said, right. So I think that's a possibility for Aaron Rodgers. This is a guy who is definitely different, and people either love to hear what he has to say or just hate on him all the time. I'm curious to see what's next. It should not be football. I think it's time to hang him up.
Well, looking with 1 week left in this season, Aaron Rodgers has had 3,600 yards. That's ranked 12th in the league, 11th in the league with 24 touchdowns, 84th in the league with 10 interceptions, and he's ranked 25th in the league with his quarterback rating. So whatever it is that he does next year or the next season of his life, it does need to be a little bit stronger than what we have seen.
Get on a better team if you're going to keep playing, Aaron.
All right, well, we've got a lot more to talk about because we've got a lot of football coming up this week, so stay with us. We'll be right back on Blitz and Banter. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. Now it is time to talk about the 2025 Pro Bowl games. The Pro Bowl rosters just came out, and this is decided on by a combination of fan votes, coaches, and players. So coming out with the most was the Baltimore Ravens. They have 9 players that made the list. They've got the 2-time NFL MVP Lamar Jackson leading the way, along with Derrick Henry and 7 other players. Then next up, we've got the Detroit Lions with 7 players making the roster. Minnesota Vikings and Philadelphia Eagles tied with 6 each. And then some of the teams that are not present, we have the Dolphins, Jets, Titans, and Saints. What were your thoughts on first initial look?
Sounds about right on those last 4 teams. They stink, and no one wants to see any more of them, even if it's just a couple of their players in the Pro Bowl games. I think it is pretty interesting if you want to make an argument in the MVP conversation, which does seem to be down to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, that Lamar Jackson's playing with 9 Pro Bowlers in Baltimore, where Josh Allen's playing with less in Buffalo. You talk about how Josh Allen has touchdown passes to 13 different receivers this year, which is an NFL record. That's one takeaway that I had from these Pro Bowl game selections. Lamar Jackson is playing with a lot of help.
Well, if you're looking at Twitter this week, you will see, though, that everybody's looking at their stats side by side, and Lamar Jackson is leading in every single stat. Mm-hmm. So, yes, he does have a lot of help, but he's also producing with what he has. So, 2 very great contenders. Biggest headline that came from this roster being announced was that Patrick Mahomes was left off for the first time since he became the starter in Kansas City.
Yeah, and it's not that surprising when you think about it. One of the stats that I think is really good to look at when it comes to determining how good a quarterback's been over the course of the year is his yards per attempt. Because anyone can throw for a lot of passing yards, but if you're not throwing it down the field, that generally means you're not doing so well offensively. And he's 24th in the league on that front. He has a career low in terms of passing yards. He has a career low in terms of passing touchdowns. And think about it, we just talked about Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, the seasons they're having. Joe Burrow leads the league in passing touchdowns. He leads the league in passing yards. He's having an awesome season. He's kind of been forgotten in the MVP conversation. I get why Patrick Mahomes didn't make it. I still would rather have Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs than any of those 3 quarterbacks. But when your numbers aren't what they have been in the past, you're not going to get that nod.
Well, another person that's coming from Kansas City is Travis Kelce. And we do have to keep in mind that this is a roster spot given to you based on votes. It's not just based on stats. Your fans are voting for you, your teammates, coaches. So was this a little bit of a popularity contest vote, you think?
Oh, I'm sure that there are a lot of Taylor Swift fans out there that said, Travis Kelce, I love him. Oh my God, he's got to propose eventually. Maybe he'll do it at the Pro Bowl games. Something like that. I'm not 100% sure if they were the entire factor. Listen, if you're going to do a Pro Bowl marriage proposal, come on, you got to do better than
Proposal.
Proposal.
I think it's meant to be.
Stop. It's your dad right here. This is A+ dad joke by you.
Whatever. All right, well, we think that was not a total snub. Who do you think actually was snubbed?
Jaguars receiver Brian Thomas, and look, we're not talking much about the Jaguars this year, but he had 80 catches for 1,179 yards. He also had 10 touchdowns. 2 receivers, Jerry Jeudy and Zay Flowers, had less receiving yards than him, and those 2 combined had less touchdowns than him. I think Brian Thomas should have made it. And also, we like to talk about the Texans here. Danielle Hunter had 12 sacks. He pressured more quarterbacks than anyone in the NFL as a pass rusher this season. I think he has 5 more than anybody else. I think he should have made it too.
All right, well, who do you think made the list that may not have deserved it?
Those 2 receivers I was talking about, Jerry Jeudy, Zay Flowers, they did not have as many receiving yards as Brian Thomas this past season. And I feel like if you're going to give somebody the nod, it should be Thomas, a rookie over those 2. I'm sure Thomas will make plenty of Pro Bowls, though, over the course of his career.
Well, speaking of rookies, we had Washington's Jaden Daniels, just the 4th rookie quarterback since 1970 to be selected to the initial Pro Bowl roster. We also had tight end for the Raiders, Brock Bowers. We had Rams outside linebacker Jared Verse, and 24 other rookies chosen. So good year for the rookies.
Good years for the rookies. And look, you don't have to play in a real game. You get to go on a little vacation for a couple of days. We'll see how those games are. I'm not going to lie, Kennedy. I'm probably not going to watch these games because I miss the football. Back when I was growing up in the 90s, the Pro Bowl was actually a pretty good watch. And then you saw Sean Taylor absolutely destroy a punter in a game. And I think at that point in time, everyone started to dial it back, maybe think a little bit about those possible injuries, and the game got worse.
Do you think there's anything that could incentivize these guys to actually play a real contact game? To me, throw some money their way and make this after the Super Bowl so we can actually enjoy it.
I like that idea because I feel like before,
if you win, $100,000 bonus to everyone who plays.
That would be fantastic. And I look at that idea, and the NBA's tried it. It hasn't really worked out great, but if you're going to make this a little bit more watchable, throwing some money out there could certainly help. I think the problem is, though, it's such a violent game. And if you get injured in a Pro Bowl game, people are going to be mad, and you're going to be mad at yourself.
At least you've got some money in your pocket.
That's true. That's true.
Well, I know that I like to see this stuff on Twitter, but I'm not going to lie, it's not often that I actually watch the full game. Do you think that our coaches, being the Mannings, is just kind of keeping it so repetitive, so same thing every year? I'm
so sick of the Mannings. But listen, I'm a Patriots fan. I like Eli Manning has hurt my feelings like multiple times, both at college and with the New York Giants. Peyton Manning, I've never liked him either. But it's entirely because those guys played against my favorite teams growing up. If you're going to get people to continue to watch, at least you have the banter that you got on the Manning cast, so maybe that's a reason to watch it. But again, it's not real football.
Well, we've got a lot more football to talk about right after this break, so we'll catch you right back here on Blitz and Banter. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. Now we're going to be talking about the 2025 draft order. There is a crazy shakeup in the top of the draft order in this week 17 that we just saw. The New York Giants, they were set to have that first pick, but no, they put up 45 points against the Indianapolis Colts and lost the first draft spot. Jacksonville Jaguars took down the Tennessee Titans, and then the Raiders just won their second game in a row after only winning 2 games in the first 14. So we had 3 teams who had 3 or less wins, all win in week 17, completely mixed everything up, resulting in the New England Patriots getting the first draft spot. And it'll be secured this week in week 18 when, I'm not saying if, when they lose to the Bills.
Yeah, it's probably going to happen. I can admit it. Hopefully the Patriots end up getting Travis Hunter out of all of it. It was interesting to see with the Giants scoring all of those points. Why didn't they play Drew Lock all year long? Drew Lock goes in there. He looks really good in that game. Maybe you play him a little bit earlier. You're not having this conversation. But all these teams, Kennedy, they need quarterbacks. And yeah, you win, you're going to make it a little bit more difficult to get some.
I mean, I understand you're 2 weeks out. You don't want to just throw in the towel already. But these teams could have had higher draft picks. What are they doing? Why are we trying so hard? Lose.
Especially in a year where there really aren't that many good quarterback prospects, at least compared to years past. You've got a couple at the top. You got Cam Ward, you got Shedeur Sanders. But after that, we're talking about Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, who every Texas fan is pretty stressed out watching, Carson Beck. It's not a good class, and you've got multiple teams, Titans, Browns, Giants, Jets, Raiders, Saints, maybe the Colts, other teams as well that might be snooping around. They need quarterbacks. Yeah, listen, I don't like the idea of purposefully trying to lose in football. I think it's dishonorable, but if you're a team, it's your job to make sure that you have the best chance to go get that potential franchise quarterback.
Well, Mr. Patriots boy, they're going to get the #1 pick, sitting with a 3-13 record currently. So Who do you think they're going to be going after, or what are they going to be going after?
I want it to be Travis Hunter. Look, you got Drake May. Travis Hunter, does he play wide receiver? Does he play defensive back? Does he actually get to do both? I don't know. But Drake May, the quarterback for the Patriots, he needs somebody to throw to that he can trust. He does not have that at this moment in time.
Number 2 up on the draft order is the Titans. Now, I'm curious if you think they're going to go for a quarterback, because they do have Will Levis. We've seen, I think, 2 years now of it not really working. But
and a
do
lot
you
of
give
Mayo
up on a
ads.
quarterback that quickly?
I think so. Yeah. Look, Will Levis, he tries. He makes a very funny play, it seems like, every single week, like a blooper of some sort where you can see his, like, all the blood leaving his face as he's completely embarrassed by what he had done. It's over. I feel like the Titans might need to clean house entirely, and we'll see if they even have Brian Callahan next year as their coach. But if you're in that 2 spot, you have the opportunity to draft somebody like Cam Ward, you got to take it.
What about the Browns at 3?
See, this is a really tricky one. Now, I know the Browns have renegotiated Deshaun Watson's contract. I'm assuming that gives them an ability to get out from Deshaun Watson, but you still are paying him all of that money. If you're paying him all that money, are you really going to say, you know what, we're just going to cut our losses? They should have going into this year. I think they should. I wonder if Shedeur Sanders, though, say he's still on the board, would actually want to go to the Cleveland Browns.
Well, that's another question. We've named a lot of teams that do need quarterbacks, but like you said, you don't think that the pool of quarterbacks coming in is going to really fill the need?
Exactly.
Do you think there could be a lot of trading to try and get higher up on the list to secure some of those spots?
I think so, right? And maybe the Patriots are in prime position. Maybe they do what they used to do all the time, which is trade out and trade down and trade down and trade down some more. But certainly, if you're looking to get the best quarterback in this year's class, you probably want to have one of the top 3 picks, top 2 picks, because I really think it is as simple as it's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders, and then good luck, hopefully you win the lottery, getting a quarterback a little bit later.
Well, speaking of Shedeur Sanders, he has such an advantage because he has his father. The connections, the power that comes with his name. So do you think that there is some leverage he has in kind of steering his own path where he goes?
I know a lot of people don't like this, and I don't really like it either, but we've seen it before. Hell, we've seen it with Eli Manning back in the day. Some of these quarterbacks do have the kind of cachet to say, I'm not going to play here, and they're just not going to sign with a certain team that drafts them. They try to force a trade. I look at some of these organizations, the Titans, the Browns, the Giants, the Jets, certainly, the Saints. Those are organizations I'm not so sure he's going to want to go to. It does feel like the Raiders are maybe a team that he is trying to force his way into. We'll see what happens.
I could see his energy very much matching the energy of Vegas.
Vegas, that would be a lot of fun.
I do have a bit of a problem of a player who's coming out of college having a say in where he goes. And I understand, like, you've got your dad, you've got a lot of power, but you have not even been here a single day yet. These teams have hundreds of people in their organization. Everything is so thought out meticulously. You might have teams that are purposely losing to get these #1 spots, and then you're going to have some kid telling you, I don't want to go there. I'd be pissed. You should be so grateful to go with whoever takes you, and God will put you where you're meant to be. That's just my personal opinion, but I know that I look like a diva sometimes, but I really am not. I don't like people having a say.
I agree with you to a degree, but I think also you got to look at some of these teams, they have really bad owners, and they're just constantly dysfunctional. I point at the year that Sam Darnold's having, and I know we're going to talk about him a little bit later. That's a guy who played for the Jets, he played for the Panthers, 2 of the worst organizations in the NFL with bad ownership group. All of a sudden, he's in a competent franchise, and he's looking like one of the best quarterbacks in the game out of nowhere this year. Sometimes these guys, I can understand why they might not want to work for a specific bad company. Say, like the Cincinnati Bengals before they got Joe Burrow. They used to charge players for Gatorade. Would you want to play for a team that's charging you for Gatorade? It's making you pay for the lunches that you're getting? Come on.
All right, I've never heard of that. But you never know when a good team's going to be bad and a bad team's going to be good.
That's also true.
So, especially at that age, I don't think you need to make your own decisions. We have a lot more opinions to go over, so we'll be right back here with Blitz and Banter. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. I'm going to talk a little bit about something that I feel like nobody's talking about enough. Antonio Brown. This man was the name on everybody's lips in the NFL for so long, and now I feel like everybody's put him in this box in their mind of, oh, he's kind of crazy. We don't have to talk about it. Well, we're going to talk about it because this is a fun show, and we're going to give the people what they want. So, Antonio Brown this past week hosted the CTESPN Cracker of the Year Awards. Now, this CTESPN thing, I don't know if it's like a legit production or what, but he's been doing this, I believe, on Twitter, where he'll give his CTESPN thoughts and awards and whatever randomly throughout the year. Well, this actually ended up being a real production.
It did.
He held an award show, giving out these different awards to different people. And he had a whole backdrop, he had a nice suit on, he had interviews lined up. It was very entertaining to watch, I will say that.
I'm not gonna lie, I was even impressed by it. And I mean, I don't like Antonio Brown. I think Antonio Brown puts the A in a-hole. The guy sucks, like he's the worst. But that person who's running his account online is actually funny, and this production was funny. He has embraced the role of being.
You don't think he runs his account?
I'm not sure that he is as creative as some of the things, the zingers, that account is putting out on a regular basis. Is he capable of being funny? Sure. Is he running the whole thing? I don't know. I think he's got someone behind the scenes.
You can have like a manager that's giving you some advice. You can be like, ooh, this will be funny, but I think he's actually like hands-on.
Maybe, but I don't know. You take a look at all these politicians these days, they got people running their accounts too, so it could be him.
If he had a company that was running his account, I don't think it would be as controversial as it is.
Maybe.
He's behind it. He's fueling this program.
Maybe. Listen, I'm very curious about what goes on behind the scenes there, but I'm not going to lie, like, even though I think he's an a-hole, his account makes me laugh. What does that say about me? I don't know.
Well, it's for entertainment, and that's what it was doing. So let's go over some of the awards that were won. We had Joe Rogan win the podcast influencer. We had Shane Gillis win the best stand-up comedian. And this one was really funny because they got him in on a Zoom interview to accept the award. And Shane is hilarious. So he was saying, oh my gosh, this is the best award I could possibly win. I'm overwhelmed. My family's going to be so proud. I'm going to put it up in their house. I thought that was really funny.
Did they give him an actual trophy too? Are they going to like mail it to him or something?
Probably not, but I think there's a little trophy sitting on the desk, so symbolic.
Okay, well listen, if Antonio Brown's making trophies and all those people who are trying to collect bills from him because he owes a lot of people a lot of money, maybe he does have that money that they need to get from him.
Some of these other ones that I was reading, I mean, you see Donald Trump in here, Donald Trump Jr., Elon Musk, blah, blah, blah. Some of these made me confused what the criteria of winning these awards are, because then for comedic contributions, we had Cat Williams. Mm-hmm. And then for, football career, Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. There's some interesting ones in here.
There's some very interesting ones along the way. I'm really glad that Shane Gillis got it, and it was very funny, as you brought up, that like, he accepted it like an actual speech. Yeah, I don't know if I'm up for any Cracker of the Year awards. I do have the complexion of a saltine cracker, so maybe that gives me something. I don't know.
One that I thought was funny, I had to look this up, and forgive me, I was born in 1998, so I was about 1 at the time that this all got started, but John Rocker won the Controversial Statements Award. Mm-hmm. So I looked it up. If you haven't, go look it up. It was December 22nd, 1999. It was a Sports Illustrated thing, and I think he won this award.
I think he could have won A-hole of the 90s, of the 2000s, of the 2010s, and look, he's back in our lives now on social media, so that's fun. Antonio Brown awarding him for it, I could deal with less John Rocker.
Yeah, this is like probably the most Antonio Brown thing I've ever heard. I thought it was really fun though, and I don't know why people in the media aren't even talking about it, because it's so funny.
I think it's because he's an a-hole. They all want him to go away, but I'm not going to lie, I was entertained by the product that they put out there.
We are keeping his voice alive here at Blitz and Banter. Antonio, hit us up. We'd love to have you on. All right, well, we've got a lot more to talk about. Some more serious topics, I promise you, but we just had to keep the air light around here. We'll be right back with Blitz and Banter after this break. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. Now we're going to do some hot topics. I've been dying to talk to you about this, but we saved all of our thoughts for now, live on air. So to start it off, we're going to talk about Jeremy Reeves and the Commanders. So the Commanders clinched a playoff spot last week, and in honor of that, we saw Jeremy Reeves propose to his longtime girlfriend. He had a great game. He had 2 tackles, and the team's 30-24 overtime win against the Falcons solidified that their season was going to continue. So he thought, hey, let's celebrate in the best way possible. Propose to my high school sweetheart girlfriend.
It was a very cool move. I will say this though. I mean, isn't it about The lady? Did the lady want that? Did she want to get proposed to on the sideline while his sweaty, stinky ass is coming over to him and coming over to her and giving her a big hug? I don't know. I feel like there are better places to propose to somebody than at your place of work.
I've got so many thoughts on this. So let me start off with number one. Have you ever seen One Tree Hill?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna
Too
watch.
much of it.
You're gonna watch. I think it was middle of the season 3. They win the state championship senior year. Lucas, Peyton, it's been a will they won't they for 3 seasons. And as they win the state championships, the confetti's coming down. He looks across the court, makes eye contact with her and goes, "It's you. When all my dreams come true, it's you who I want standing next to me." It's in your best moments, you want it to be with that special person. So yeah, I support this. I think this is the cutest thing ever. I have been corrupt in the head ever since I saw that scene in One Tree Hill because that's my expectation of love. I actually would love to be proposed to like this. I don't think my boyfriend's watching this.
Is this a hint?
No. He watches sometimes. I don't think he's watching right now, so I feel safe as I speak this. But I think like a on-the-field type moment that's not so manufactured, but it's still big, and like professing your love in a big way, but not so like, oh, here's a big light-up sign. I love that. I thought this was so cute.
Okay, so you're trying to manifest this on your TV show.
Yes, I am.
Okay, listen, if you want it that way, you can get it that way. I know that I'm pretty sure whoever I'm going to settle down with eventually, if it ever happens, is going to want to go somewhere fancy and expensive, and is going to put us all into financial ruin. But this has actually happened before in the world of sports. In 2007, Boise State running back Ian Johnson, right after scoring the game-winning 2-point conversion in a win over Oklahoma in the Fiesta Bowl, proposed to his cheerleader girlfriend. Now, a moment like that, super awesome. I don't know, though, that we got the exact same thing with Jeremy Reeves. They clinched a playoff spot. I think what Ian Johnson did was cooler.
It was big to him. It was so cute. I've watched that clip. It's adorable. And the fact that she was cheer captain, oh, my heart. It's like everybody's romance. It's a Cinderella story. I'm absolutely in love with it. They're still together, by the way, so it worked out for them.
Let's go.
Good for them. I think it's a genius move. Ryan, if you're listening, take notes. All right, we've talked enough about this. Let's get on to some actual hard-hitting football news. And when it comes to Ezekiel Elliott, he requested to be released by the Cowboys, and they actually gave it to him in hopes that he could find a spot with a team in the upcoming week that he could potentially ride through the playoffs with. Number one, who do you think would pick him up in this scenario?
Well, look, there's a lot of teams that need bodies at this time of the year, and you look at a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, hey, is he going to be able to give me 2 or 3 carries or something like that in a game? But he's not the same Ezekiel Elliott anymore. It stinks to see running backs fall off as quickly as they do. Last year, Ezekiel Elliott was with the Patriots, and he actually had a pretty decent season, all things considered. But I think you see Ezekiel Elliott go back to the Cowboys, and you lose Tony Pollard to the Titans. I think Cowboys fans were expecting a lot more out of Elliott this year. I don't think he's going to be a contributor in the playoffs, but listen, it's pretty cool that the Cowboys honored his wishes.
I mean, he is such a powerhouse, and I know that he didn't have a great season, but is that because of the program he was in? Did he just not fit there anymore? I know that they were hoping it would be some grand homecoming, and that's why he came here about a year ago, but the Cowboys are the Cowboys. Are we going to blame it on Ezekiel?
I think it's fair to say, like, hey, it didn't work out because the Cowboys situation this year has been a mess. But I also think, too, like, Ezekiel Elliott just isn't the same player anymore. And it stinks. Like, running backs just have such a quick shelf life in the NFL these days. If somebody signs him, I wish him the best. I doubt we'll be seeing him on the field for more than 2 or 3 carries or something like that, though, if he signs with an actual playoff contender.
Yeah, well, Coach McCarthy, and he said, quote, with Zeke's success here, in quotations, in the past, he's earned this opportunity to get this request fulfilled. So I'm curious if you think that this is something that is fair, if this is something that people should be doing more often. What are your takes on this? Because I have a very similar take that I do to Shadur.
Yeah.
Go where you go. You don't, I don't know. I think sometimes athletes need to kind of put their opinions and thoughts to the side, but that's as an opinion of a former athlete.
There you go. Look, he did sign an agreement with the Dallas Cowboys to play for them for this season, but at the very least he didn't quit on the team or anything like that one guy on the San Francisco 49ers earlier this year who just refused to go back into a game in the middle of one, you know? Like, it could have been done, I think, a lot worse. I think if you're on a team that is clearly playing for nothing at this moment in time, can it hurt to put in the request? And if the team's going to actually go through with it, hey, all the power in the world to them. But I'm again looking at it from this perspective. I just don't think anyone's going to sign Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, let's say that nobody does. What happens next year?
I don't know. I wonder if sort of the same kind of questions we are asking about Aaron Rodgers right now. I just don't know that people are going to look at him and say he's worth signing to a full season contract. Maybe somebody will bring him in for training camp to see if he still has anything left in the tank, but I think the film doesn't lie this year. He's just not the same guy.
Well, if he did end up not going anywhere and this kind of started the end of the road for him, I think it would be unfortunate to see that him requesting to be released was the end with the Cowboys.
Yeah.
It leaves a sour note
For
on
sure.
what could have been a nicer story.
For sure. I mean, yeah, what if he plays in the last game, he scores a touchdown or something like that, does a old-fashioned, tries to find the Salvation Army pot and jump back in that or something like that. It would be cool to see him actually play that last game. Maybe he knows that there is a team that's about to sign him. We'll see.
Well, we've got some bigger things to talk about in the next segment. Vikings, Lions, we've got so much to say, so stick with us right here on Blitz and Banter. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. We are talking about the game of the week, Week 18, the Vikings taking on the Lions. This game, nobody will stop talking about it. It is going to be such an intense game, and I think this is one of the highest stakes games we will ever see in regular season. So we've had the Lions, who have been the clear leader of the NFC this season, and on Sunday they're going to be taking on one of their sneakiest competitions, the Vikings. Whoever wins this gets the #1 seed in the NFC. Whoever doesn't is going to get a 5 seed with 14 wins. They're going to be on the road in the playoffs. That is unheard of.
Especially when you consider the team in third place in that division has 11 wins right now, the Green Bay Packers. It's a very good division, and what the Vikings have done has been really the surprise of the NFL season. First up, Brian Flores, their defensive coordinator, one of the best defensive minds in the game. I know anyone based in Houston saw Brian Flores completely fluster C.J. Stroud early in the year when the Texans actually had all of their wide receivers. And he's been doing that all season long. But the other guy who has really blown everybody away this year is Sam Darnold. He's been fantastic.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So we were talking a little bit about it earlier, but he's one of those guys who was put in a program that didn't really work out for him. He had 3 pretty uneventful seasons, and then he was traded away to what I think the Panthers for 2 years,
right.
Another 2 uneventful seasons, and now he is finally showing that he's got some worth here.
Last year he had a internship essentially with the San Francisco 49ers. I had no idea he played in 10 games for the 49ers last year.
I actually didn't either until you just said that.
Right, it's insane. And his stat, it's not like he had a lot of statistics or anything like that. But I'm sure that being with Kyle Shanahan for a year, an actual stable program, maybe not this year, helped him out. But Kevin O'Connell, as the potential coach of the year in the NFC with the Vikings, I mean, they drafted a quarterback in the first round, J.J. McCarthy. And J.J. McCarthy, who was injured, okay, maybe you're not going to see him all season long. So they just threw out basically the dice and said, all right, well, let's see what Sam Darnold can bring to the table. And he has cut down on turnovers. He has been really efficient. He's been throwing touchdown passes, and he's been doing the most important thing you can do if you're the Vikings quarterback. Give Justin Jefferson the ball every single play.
I just think it's so nice because they said that they brought in Sam Darnold to be kind of one of these veteran guys to lead the way for J.J. McCarthy, but he was going to kind of be that a big brother, what's the word, babysitter.
Mentor.
A mentor, a babysitter, somebody who was really just there to guide the way. And he has led this team to one of the most sneaky, great seasons I have seen in a really long time.
And I'm happy for him too, because I hate to see an athlete get embarrassed because of the situation that he was in. And remember, there was that game between the Jets and the Patriots all those years ago where Sam Darnold had said that he was seeing ghosts out there and everyone zoomed in on it and they were all dumping on him. But this guy has shown true perseverance, sticking with it as long as he has, getting an opportunity with an organization that actually knows what it's doing. And I'm happy for him. I hope he gets paid because of it. It will be very interesting to see, though, where he gets paid.
Yeah, well, as you were saying, Glenn said that especially nowadays, people give on quarterbacks in these new programs so easily, and sometimes the environment has a lot to do with it. I mean, we see it with him. I'm sure there's a million other examples, but are there some examples of other quarterbacks that you think we saw that with? First one that comes to my mind, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, look at him this year. I mean, if you're talking about Pro Bowl snubs, you can make the case that Baker Mayfield's one of those Pro Bowl snubs. Sometimes you just need to go to a better organization, and I like that now we are seeing some of these guys have success stories because very often it is ownership It is management that is creating situations that are completely unwinnable. A quarterback is a very convenient scapegoat. You can say, hey, this guy's the problem. You move on from him, and you hope that the fans kind of forget that, hey, there's been one consistent thing the entire time that a team has been unsuccessful, like the Jets, the ownership.
Yeah, well, to kind of boost up Sam a little more, although that's kind of all we've been doing for the last 4 minutes, he's thrown 35 touchdowns so far this season, which his previous career high on a season was 19. So we're looking to hopefully double that. And he's had a 68.1% completion rate, 8% higher than his previous career average, and 14 wins. That, to me, is the big indicator here. It's not just that he can get the job done, but he is also being thrown in and leading this team, and everybody's following along with him.
And he's not making mistakes. I mean, that was his big problem. I used to call him White Jameis Winston because, listen, he had talent, but every now and then he would do something that was just dumb with the football. He's cleaned up that. That's important. And when you got a team that has the kind of defense that the Vikings has, you can see why they won all these games in a row and why they have a chance to overtake the media darlings, the Detroit Lions, in the last game of the year.
Well, let's not neglect the other half of this equation. We've got the Lions. Now, these teams did face up in October, and Lions came out with the victory. We have Jared Goff. These are two really strong quarterbacks this year leading these teams. How do you think they're going to match up, and what's your prediction?
Man, it's a tough question. I look at Jared Goff, and I know that every now and then Goff has his moments where he looks a little bit lost out there. The Lions have been there and done that. They have been all the way to an NFC Championship game. I know that there's some unfinished business here. They have a fantastic home field advantage, as do the Vikings. I think that the Lions are going to ultimately win this one because they have a little bit more experience. But this is one where I would not actually put money on this game because I'm too scared to. I really don't know who's going to win. It's going to be a fantastic matchup on Sunday.
I, all season, have been rooting for the Lions because I just think this amazing underdog story is going on with them. Plus, I love to see an Aggie head coach coming in, having some good wins. But Vikings, to me, are the underdog in this situation, and it's hard for me not to pull for them just because Sam, to me, is so likable right now.
It is cool. He's been a great teammate. He deserves this opportunity.
I'm happy either way. You said something about betting, which is my next topic that I want to get into because we're going to be talking a lot about betting. Shortly after this break, we've got a lot more football to talk about right here on Blitz and Banter. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. A couple weeks ago, we all heard about Joe Burrow's house getting robbed, and I think that may have been more because of who made the police report. We won't go deeply into that, but now the FBI has actually been warning different leagues, NFL, NBA, about these high crime organizations that are targeting professional athletes with strings of burglaries. They're targeting athletes' homes due to the perception that they're going to have a lot of high-end items in them, and because they know their travel schedule due to their seasons going on. So we've seen this previously this year. We saw it with Luka Doncic. I'm not going to say his name right.
You got it. You had it.
Luka Doncic.
Yeah, you got it.
I'm the worst at pronouncing names. Okay, I was trying to be serious for a second, but we saw this with Luka with the Dallas Mags. You all know who we're talking about. He was the latest guy to have his home burglarized. We've also seen it with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. Patrick actually didn't address on what was stolen. He just said that it was so frustrating and draining to feel like his personal space was being invaded. Travis, we know that he at least had 20 grand stolen, along with some personal items. That is frustrating. I mean, I'm sure that's like a drop in the bucket to him, but for me, that'd be devastating. And then we also heard that Dak Prescott's fiance's house was invaded. So FBI have been saying that this is a South American organized crime group, and they're kind of trying to teach these leagues how to stay vigilant and not get robbed.
Good luck. I mean, look, everyone now can find out where somebody lives because there's just so much information that's readily available online. So to what you were saying about earlier, everyone knows these guys' schedules when they're playing games. And on top of that, it's probably not that hard to figure out, hey, does somebody rich live in this mansion? Maybe I stake it out or something like that. I know I sound like I'm a burglary expert right now. I'm not. I would never do that. But I don't know what...
Mustache is giving robber.
It's giving robber.
No, but these schedules are so public, and I know that celebrities, these guys are celebrities. But I don't think other celebrities have such public schedules other than when you're on tour. But if you're a touring artist, you're going to have somebody house sitting your house. These guys, I'm sure most of them are leaving their houses unattended except for Joe Burrow. And people can just come and go as they please. It's scary.
You might need security, you might need a gate, you might need more than that.
You might need an Instagram influencer looking after your house.
Is that what you're going for? Okay. Listen, if you need somebody like me to watch your house, I'm big and strong.
I'm not talking about myself. I was talking about Joe Burrow.
Oh, okay.
Did you not hear about that?
I did hear about
Okay.
that. Yeah, I did. Do you think they were dating?
I'm not going to comment on this. We talk about so much drama and controversial stuff. We're not doing that right now. But how do you think like people are getting their addresses? I know that there's some tours, it's like Hollywood tours. Look, this is Christina Aguilera's house. But professional athletes, are these readily online?
It's pretty easy for someone to stalk somebody on social media these days. I mean, look, there's online directories of addresses online. So I'm sure that a well-connected person that knows people with a lot of money that are perhaps sponsoring them, I feel like they're going to be able to figure things out. We're not talking about like the wet bandits from Home Alone, you know? We're talking about like countries, people from all sorts of different countries in these transnational gangs getting together and breaking into people's houses.
Is that your first time ever using that word?
I can't believe how much I've heard the word transnational over the last couple of weeks, and it's all been about athletes getting robbed. I don't know why, but that's what's happening these days.
Well, what's also interesting is most celebrities, I don't think, have their salaries so publicized, but athletes, there's articles written about them. So it really is just like a flashing sign, hey, come rob me. Plus, what's funny is that the FBI's biggest advice for what they should be doing, stop posting so much bling on your Instagram.
Again, though, this is classic FBI. Like, thanks for the advice. Like, people are still gonna know that if you're an athlete, you have money because of the salaries.
You can post yourself in a brown paper sack, and you can still go look and see that I'm making $50 million a year.
Yeah, you're gonna have more saved up in the safe, probably.
I hope you all stay safe, athletes out there. We will be right back to talk about how you should be placing your bets here in Week 18 after this break. See you in a second. Welcome back to Blitz and Banter. If you're a sports bettor, it's time to listen up. Are you a sports bettor?
I am a sports bettor thanks to my friends at mybookie.ag. Promo code BET975. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with mybookie.ag.
I promise you guys, this is not a sponsored segment.
I just had to force it on everybody, okay?
I guess you're a sponsored man. Well, we've got a lot to talk about when it comes to key incentives and how it is going to be affecting your bets. It's legal what your betting is, correct? Because I've never bet because we're in Texas and I didn't
Somehow
think
it is legal. I don't know how. I don't ask any questions, Kennedy. I just bet.
Okay, hook me up with your people because I do want to start doing a little bit of sports betting. I just never thought it was legal here in Texas. I thought everyone was breaking the law. And I'm such an angel. Of course.
You are.
So, key incentives, when the regular season comes to a close, if certain players have hit certain milestones, they're going to get a whole lot of money, which means they are heavily motivated this week, which means you should be getting money with them too. We're going to go over some of our biggest key incentives and how we should be betting. Starting off, Mike Evans, he needs 5 catches and 85 more yards to get a $3 million bonus. Think this is possible?
I think with Baker Mayfield operating and with the year that he's had, Pro Bowl snub, sure, I think Mike Evans can get that easily. And everyone likes Mike Evans. Shout out, he's from Galveston. It's not going to take that much, I think, to make that happen. That'll probably be their biggest priority in this game. And of course, yeah, they do have some other things to play for too.
You put $3 million on the line for me. I'm going to make 500 yards, 100 catches. Are you kidding?
You're going to be Terrell Owens on the sideline.
This to me is a walk in the park. This should not be that difficult. And like you said, Baker's a good guy to be throwing it to him. So I believe that he can get this done. Mike Evans, a good guy to be placing a bet on this week. Geno Smith with the Seahawks. He needs 186 passing yards for a $2 million bonus. They're going to be taking on the Rams, which has had 363 yards against them. Sorry, Geno had 363 yards against them in week 9. And he also gets $2 million if Seattle wins.
It's been tricky for the Seahawks of late. I used to cover them. Their offensive line's been an issue for years and years. 186 does seem doable, but it's also a game where the Seahawks really don't have a whole lot to play for. I do know that his teammates like him, so maybe there is a chance that he's able to get it. 186 is a pretty dicey spot to be in, though, considering this is a meaningless game for Seattle.
Yeah, well, we've got Tony Pollard with the Titans. He needs 83 rushing yards for $250,000, and then he needs 2 touchdowns for another $250,000.
Well, the Titans are going to be wearing the Houston Oilers unis, and they clearly have some pride to play for this last game of the year. And we also, not too long ago, unfortunately, on Christmas Day, saw Derrick Henry and the Baltimore Ravens run all over that Texans defense. They should have Azeez Al-Shaair back. I'm actually going to say that the Texans stop him, because I think that the Texans are going to go all out in this last game of the year, just based off of what we've heard from coaches over the course of this week.
Yeah, we did hear Coach D'Amico Ryan saying that they're going to be putting all their chips on the chessboard. So that's not even how you play that game, is it?
No, it's not. No.
They're going all in. Texans are playing their starters. Whatever. I tried to sound cool. It didn't work. You know me. All right.
I called something druggy wuggies earlier, so
Druggy wuggies.
I think that was the highlight of the show.
You and biggest loser of this episode, that's for sure. All right. Saquon Barkley, he's got a lot on the line for this game. Oh my gosh, I'm not even talking about money with him. 101 yards to set the rushing record for regular season. Here's the problem. They have said that they are not going to be playing with him.
I gotta say, the priority for Saquon Barkley all year long, even as he has been approaching this record, has been, I want to win. And when you've been playing for the New York Giants the last couple of years, why wouldn't you want to win over setting a record? I think it's actually pretty cool that the guy's saying, yeah, I'm cool with 2,000 rushing yards. I'm only going to have played in 16 games like all those guys who set the records in those years before.
Okay, but still, this is one of those situations where I actually want the player to kind of prioritize themselves. I know I've been saying the opposite of that this entire episode, but he had 176 yards against the Giants in Week 7. He can definitely do this. It's easily plausible. I feel like, is this the type of situation where you can be like, Coach, let me in. Like, let me get this.
I see, if he wanted it, I think he would go for it. I think they would let him play for this game.
You don't think he wants it?
I actually don't think he wants it. And just
I want it.
You might want it. Maybe you had a bet on that before the year. Look, it's a 17-game season now. There is a part of me that kind of respects that he's not going to play in that 17th game where so many of the running backs before are playing 16 games. Hell, some running backs were playing 14 games and setting these numbers. There's a little bit of respect for history that's there. I don't think that's his primary intent. I think he wants to be healthy for the playoffs because the Eagles go as far as Saquon Barkley takes them.
Well, last one, Dante Fowler, Commanders. He needs a half a sack for $1.5 million. They're going against the Cowboys, who allow 2.2 sacks per game. Yes or no? You think he can do it?
That's tricky. I think it's possible, just given how the Cowboys have been this year.
You and one boy, team up. Let's go.
Maybe they have a handshake agreement like Brett Favre might have had with Michael Strahan that one time to get that half sack.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Have fun placing your bets. It has been a great Week 18. We will see you right here next week on Blitz and Banter.